You know that feeling when you're grinding at work, constantly thinking about money, but you're absolutely exhausted. Your relationships are suffering. You're checking your portfolio obsessively every single day, and if you stop for even a second, you feel like everything falls apart? Sound familiar? What if I told you that building real wealth doesn't actually require destroying your mental health and social life? Most people think financial independence means brutal suffering for decades. But the people who actually build serious wealth without burning out, they figure out how to make the process automatic and sustainable. My name is James Money, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, personal finance, and why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others burn themselves out chasing quick wins and then give up entirely. If you're tired of the feast or famine cycle, the emotional roller coaster, and you actually want to understand how to build wealth while maintaining a life that's worth living, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The truth about wealthy people. Before we dive into the systems that actually work, let me ask you something. When you think about rich people, what comes to mind? Maybe you picture someone working 80-hour weeks, grinding away at a startup, completely obsessed with making money at the expense of everything else. Or maybe you imagine someone who inherited wealth, got lucky with a business deal, or made some brilliant investment that went to the moon. And yeah, some wealthy people do fit those descriptions. But here's what most people don't realize. The people who build generational wealth, who reach actual financial independence without sacrificing their sanity in the process, they're not grinding harder than everyone else. They're actually working smarter. They've figured out a way to automate their wealth building, so it happens in the background while they're living their actual life. And that's the entire game right there. It's not about finding the fastest path to $1 million. It's about building a sustainable system that generates wealth consistently without requiring constant attention and mental energy from you. From scarcity to abundance. Let's talk about something that most financial advice completely gets wrong. There's this idea that to build wealth, you have to operate from a scarcity mindset. You have to be obsessed with saving every single dollar. You have to say no to everything fun. You have to treat money like it's this rare, precious resource that disappears the moment you spend it. And yeah, avoiding wasteful spending is important, but operating purely from scarcity burns you out. When you're constantly restricting yourself, eventually you break and blow your savings on something stupid. The people who build wealth sustainably shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. Instead of asking, "How can I save one more dollar?" they ask, "How can I earn one more dollar?" Instead of obsessing over expenses, they focus on building assets that generate income. That shift changes the entire emotional experience. You go from feeling deprived to feeling like you're building something that works for you. Set clear financial goals. You can't randomly save and hope it works. You need clarity about what you're building. That starts with setting realistic financial goals. The difference between someone who builds wealth and someone who stays broke is usually that one has clear targets and the other doesn't. So decide, what does financial independence look like? Maybe retire at 50. Maybe have 6 months of expenses saved. Maybe own rental properties generating passive income. Whatever it is, you need to know specifically what you're working toward. Then work backwards. If you want to retire at 50, how much do you need saved? Once you have these numbers, your savings goal becomes concrete instead of vague. You go from playing defense with your finances to playing offense with a strategy. Budgeting is liberation, not restriction. Once you have a clear goal, you can start building a budget that actually gets you there. Now, budgeting gets this terrible reputation because people think it means tracking every single dollar and never having fun. But a budget is just a spending plan. It's telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. And here's what most people don't understand about budgeting. It's not restrictive if you do it right. It's actually liberating. When you know exactly what you're spending on rent, groceries, transportation, entertainment, and savings, you're not constantly wondering if you can afford something. You already know. And the psychological freedom that comes from that is massive. But here's where most people mess this up. They create a budget, follow it perfectly for 2 months, then get tired of tracking everything and abandon it completely. And the reason that happens is because they're trying to do it all manually. They're trying to willpower themselves through their financial plan every single day, and willpower is finite. The game changer. Automation. Here's the game-changing insight. You don't need willpower. You need automation. Think about this for a second. What if your wealth building happened completely automatically? What if the moment your paycheck hit your account, Money flowed to the right places without you having to think about it or do anything at all. You'd never see it. You'd never have the opportunity to spend it, and you'd be building wealth without the constant mental battle. This is the secret that separates people who actually build wealth from people who talk about building wealth. Automation removes the decision fatigue and the emotional component. It turns good intentions into reliable actions. When your savings and investments happen automatically, you're not fighting yourself every month. You're not questioning whether you should save or spend. The system is already running. You set it up once and then it just works in the background while you live your life. How automation works in practice. Let me paint you a practical picture. Let's say you make $75,000 a year. That's about $2,300 every 2 weeks after tax. You set up your automation to immediately transfer $400 to savings, $300 to retirement accounts, and $200 to investments. That happens instantly without you ever seeing it. You're left with about $400 every 2 weeks to cover your actual living expenses. And here's the crazy part. Most people can live a completely normal, comfortable life on that amount. You can still go out with friends, you can still enjoy hobbies, you can still have fun. But now you're building wealth automatically in the background. After 1 year, you've accumulated $10,400 in savings, plus $13,000 in investments, without having to willpower yourself once. After 5 years, you've got over $52,000 in savings, plus around $75,000 in investments, assuming some basic returns. And you did this while maintaining a totally normal life. No sacrifice required, no burnout, just a system that works while you focus on the things that actually matter to you. Build your emergency fund. First, before you start investing and trying to pick the next hot stock or cryptocurrency that's going to make you rich, you need to build an emergency fund first. I know this sounds boring. I know you'd rather jump straight to investing and watching your money grow. But here's why this matters more than you think. An emergency fund isn't just about having money for when something unexpected happens. It's about creating a psychological safety net that prevents you from making terrible financial decisions when life inevitably throws you a curveball. When your car breaks down or you face an unexpected medical bill and you don't have an emergency fund, what happens? You either sell your investments at the worst possible time, locking in losses, or you go into high-interest debt. Research shows that people with at least $2,000 in emergency savings have financial well-being scores that are 21% higher than those without any emergency fund. So start by getting your first $1,000 saved as quickly as possible. That covers most minor emergencies. Then work toward 3 months of living expenses. This creates a true financial safety net. And here's the beautiful part. Once you have this buffer, you stop making panicked financial decisions. You can actually sleep at night without constant financial anxiety. The magic of compound interest. Once you have your emergency fund in place, now we get to talk about how to actually grow your money. Most people think it's about picking the right individual stocks or finding some secret investment strategy that only wealthy people know about. But here's the reality. The secret to building wealth through investing is understanding compound interest and starting as early as possible. Compound interest is when your money earns returns, and then those returns earn their own returns, and then those new returns earn returns. It's like a snowball rolling down a mountain, picking up more snow as it goes. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine you're 25 years old and you decide to invest $10,000 and then never add to it again. Just let it sit there earning 7% annually. By the time you're 55, that single $10,000 investment has grown to almost $77,000. Now compare that to someone who waits until they're 35 to invest that same $10,000. By age 55, it's only worth about $40,000. That single 10-year delay costs them roughly $37,000. Time is literally free money when you're investing. Index funds beat stock picking. Here's where it gets really interesting. Most people think they need to pick individual winning stocks to beat the market. But study after study shows that over long periods, the vast majority of active traders underperform simple index fund investing. You know what beats almost all professional stock pickers? Just buying a diversified fund that tracks the entire market and holding it for decades while the magic of compound interest does its thing. It's boring, it's unsexy, but it works. And more importantly, it doesn't require constant attention. You're not checking your portfolio every day. You're not trying to time the market. You're just letting your money sit there and grow while you live your life. Build passive income. Now let's talk about something that wealthy people understand that most people don't. Passive income. This is the key to building wealth without burning out. Because passive income is money that shows up without you having to actively work for it every single day. The wealthiest people in the world aren't trading time for money. They're letting their assets work for them. Dividend stocks. When you own stocks from companies like Johnson & Johnson or Coca-Cola that have a history of paying dividends, you receive a portion of the company's profits every quarter. Let's say you invest $10,000 in quality dividend stocks earning an average yield of 3%. That's $300 per year flowing into your account without you lifting a finger. If you reinvest those dividends automatically, you're buying more shares, which generates more dividends. Over 20 years, that initial $10,000 could grow to around $18,000 just from this passive income stream. Real estate. Rental properties can generate solid monthly income, and they also appreciate over time. You're essentially building wealth through someone else paying off your mortgage while your asset grows. The key is finding properties in good areas with reasonable rents, and once you've bought the property and set up a property manager, the income generation becomes passive. Diversification protects your wealth. Here's something that most wealth builders understand but most people miss. Diversification. When you diversify, you're spreading your investments across different asset classes, some stocks, some bonds, maybe some real estate, maybe some commodities. This does a few things. First, it reduces your risk because if one asset class tanks, your entire portfolio doesn't go with it. Second, it can actually increase your overall returns because different assets perform well at different times. The allocation depends on your age and risk tolerance. Someone in their 20s might be 80% stocks because they have 40 years for the market to recover from downturns. Someone in their 60s might be 40% stocks and 50% bonds because they need stability. This approach might feel slower than going all in on the hottest stock, but slow and steady actually wins this race. Eliminate high-interest debt. Let's talk about something that most people completely underestimate when it comes to building wealth without burnout. Debt. Specifically, high-interest debt, like credit cards. Here's the math that should scare you straight. If you're carrying a $5,000 credit card balance at 22% interest and you're only making minimum payments, you'll pay nearly $2,800 in interest alone over 5 years. That's money that could have been working for you. Instead, it's making credit card companies rich. High-interest debt is toxic because it's a guaranteed loss. Before you start getting fancy with investments, eliminate high-interest debt. Use the debt avalanche method. List all your debts with their interest rates, pay minimums on everything, and throw every extra dollar at the debt with the highest interest rate. Once that's gone, the next dollar you would have sent to interest can instead go into building wealth. And the psychological impact of being debt-free is huge. You're no longer sending money to your past, you're building your future. Optimize for taxes. Here's something most people don't think about, but it becomes increasingly important as your money grows. Taxes. The biggest strategy is maxing out tax-advantaged accounts first. A 401k lets you reduce your taxable income while your money grows tax-free. An IRA does the same with a contribution limit of $7,000 per year. A health savings account gives you a tax deduction for putting money in, it grows tax-free, and withdrawals for medical expenses are completely tax-free. When you maximize these accounts, you're essentially letting more of your money compound without the government taking a piece every year. The complete system. So here's where we land. Building wealth without sacrificing your life isn't about working harder than everyone else. It's not about grinding yourself into exhaustion. It's not about feeling deprived and miserable. It's about building systems that work automatically while you focus on the things that actually matter. You set up your automation so money flows to savings and investments without you thinking about it. You build an emergency fund so unexpected events don't derail your progress. You let compound interest do the heavy lifting over decades. You generate passive income through dividends and assets that work for you. You diversify so you're protected against catastrophic loss. You eliminate high-interest debt so it's not eating your lunch every month. And you optimize your taxes so more of your money keeps compounding. That's it. That's the entire strategy. Nothing flashy, nothing risky, nothing that requires you to destroy your mental health or sacrifice your relationships. Just consistent, boring, systematic wealth building that actually works. The people who do this end up financially independent. Not because they got lucky or inherited money or made some brilliant investment call, but because they understood that wealth building is a marathon, not a sprint, And the only way to finish a marathon is to pace yourself sustainably, which means automation, which means systems, which means letting your money do the work while you live your actual life. That's real wealth, and that's worth far more than a fancy car or expensive house or whatever else society tells you that you're supposed to want. Build your systems, automate your wealth building, then just focus on living. Your future self will thank you for having the discipline to do this the right way.